All right, thank you. It looks like there's a lot of NOSTR newbies in here, so I'm gonna talk a little about why NOSTR. Like, what is NOSTR? Why are we doing this? What is it useful for, and why it is the future of the stuff on the internet. Okay. Um, so what's the problem? So the problem is there's a lot of fragmentation online. So you have all these different apps. They're kind of independent from each other. They're kind of siloed, and they all have their own little ways of doing things. And they don't really talk to each other. And on Instagram, for instance, you might find that, they'll serve you an algorithm, and then it'll just show you videos within their algorithm based off of what they think you will like. Facebook has something similar. Twitter has their own algorithm. Like, I find when I go on Twitter, it's just they're just showing me like angry videos to like drive engagement. It doesn't really make me happy. It's kind of like just like bait. It feels like when I'm scrolling Twitter. So I've stopped doing that. I stopped going to Twitter. And yeah, so it just feels like so many of these apps are kind of like trying to control the way we think and kind of push us into certain ways of thinking. And it feels kind of weird. It feels kind of unnatural. We never really had that in the, up until this point. So we need to really be mindful of that and like how is that affecting humanity? How is that affecting our decision making? So the biggest issue is that there's not really a way to kind of opt out of it. Like, everyone is on these platforms. And all your friends are there, and it just feels good to be there. It feels good to be social, right? So, so what do we do about that? It's not really. It doesn't feel very good, but like maybe there's a better way of doing it. So we'll move on. Oh, why is it not working? Yeah, so again, a big factor of that is the fact that they are very isolated. So what would it look like if you could only have like one account, right? So what if you had one account, you could log into each one of these apps, you can like move your friend group along, and like why isn't that a thing? Like, why isn't that possible? There's actually no incentive for these corporations to do that because they want to kind of keep you within their platform, and if you move out of their platform, they lose money, so they have very strong incentive to keep you there. But what I'm going to propose today is a new type of protocol where kind of all these things are connected. You can have one account, it works across every app you use on the internet, and you kind of you own your data, and you keep your followers. And anyway, so this is the general idea of NOSTR. It's basically a new protocol for bridging these systems together online. NOSTR, yay. So NOSTR stands for Notes and Other Stuff Transmitted by Relays. The basic idea, I don't need to go into too much technical detail, but if you think about it, when you connect to Facebook or you connect to Instagram, you connect to a single server, it's run by them. They say what you're allowed to do if you do something bad or do something that they don't like. Like on Instagram, if you post like a nipple or something, they'll ban you and kick you off and say you're bad. So, each platform has their own rules. It's for a good reason, sometimes not good reasons. So the way we get around this on NOSTR is that instead of just posting to a single server, which is owned and controlled by that corporation, we instead send it to like 5 different servers, and those are all run by anyone. It could be run just by you. It could be run by your friends. It could be run by anyone. But the basic idea that what gives its power is that if any one of these servers, they're called relays, if they decide to like kick you off their platform, it doesn't really matter because you can still get your notes on the other 4 relays. So this is the kind of the basic idea. It's a very simple idea, but it kind of has a lot of power. A big part of this as well is the fact that all of the data you put on the network is signed by a private key, and this private key is something that you control. It's very much like in Bitcoin, so if you're used to Bitcoin and your private keys, you know that those keys give you the ability to unlock your coin and move your coins. It's a very similar idea on NOSTR. You don't need to put an email address. You don't need to put in your personal identifiable information. You can just generate a key and start posting. And that key kind of gives you the power over your data. When you send, so one common example of this is on Twitter. Like, imagine if you do a post. At any time, Twitter can just remove that post if you did something bad. But again, in NOSTR, you sign it with your key, you send it to the network. Everyone else on the network can verify that you in fact did it. And the most important thing is that those servers can't modify that data. Since the signature covers all of the information in the note, those servers, they can't do much more than either deleting it or just keeping it there. They can't modify it. So when you see a note coming off the wire, you know that it's actually from the person who they say they are. And that's something like very subtle, but if you think about it, we kind of put so much trust in these platforms. When you see a post by the president saying, I'm starting World War III or something, like you don't really know if he said that or just someone at Twitter headquarters could have just posted that note. There's no really way to verify it. But NOSTR gives us a way to actually have end-to-end verification of posting notes and stuff. So the combination of all these things, the keys, the different servers, that gives you censorship-resistant speech. And not only that, but it gives you a way to put yourself into the digital realm without anyone saying that you're not allowed to be there, right? So if you're running a business, if you're running a clothing shop or you're like selling stuff, no one can say you're not allowed to be there because it's enforced by the protocol. And that's kind of the biggest idea about NOSTR. It's a very liberating, it's a very free speech enforcing protocol. And we know we have that for Bitcoin, we have it for our money, so why don't we have that for our speech? We should. Later on, I introduced an extension to the protocol called Zaps, and this gives you a way to send Bitcoin Lightning transactions to anyone on the network. So if you do a post, anyone can reward you with real value via the Lightning network. But this could have been anything. I could have just added Stripe fiat Zaps, but I didn't because it makes sense to pair freedom money with freedom of speech protocol, and people seem to like it. I don't know. I think I have about a Bitcoin worth of Zaps that people have sent me on the network, which is kind of insane if you think about it. And I'm not even I'm kind of like this random nerd on the internet. Imagine if you actually were an influencer with a huge following, they could be making tens of Bitcoin on this protocol. They just have to embrace it. No one's embraced it yet, but it's definitely possible. Okay, so this talk is about introducing, or I guess there's a lot of people who are new to the app, but so we released our app on the App Store in, I think it was February of 2023. And 2 days after I launched on the App Store, it was banned in China. So somehow they were on top of this really quick. My theory is, we got 25,000 downloads in mainland China within the first day or two. And that's still our most downloaded regions, even till today. So I think we must have set off a trigger within the CCP. They're like, what is this? Why is it getting so many downloads? So that's still banned in China. And then shortly after, Jack Dorsey's plan for decentralized social app. Yeah, it was his plan, but Apple thwarted it when they decided that you're not allowed to have Zaps within our app, and they removed the Zap button within DOMIS, and we weren't allowed to add it even till. I think just recently we were able to re-add it, but it's still a gray area if it's even allowed. But basically, this is just Apple saying, look, it's you're on our platform, you follow by our rules, and this kind of really pissed me off. I wasn't really happy with this. I'm trying to build a censorship-resistant freedom of speech app, and then you still have these people who are the gatekeepers at the App Store, and they're saying you can't do this important fundamental thing, which I think is important for human rights, which is being able to send value to someone without any intermediary. So naturally, I was very upset, and I decided to. I think it was time to build an actual censorship-resistant client, one that can't be banned, that anyone, even if you're in China, you can use it. So that ever since this happened, I set that out to be my goal. And actually today, I'm going to announce kind of what I've been working on for the past 2 or 3 years to kind of achieve that goal, and kind of the technology that I've been building to achieve this. But up until this point, if you haven't heard of DOMIS iOS, go try it out. It's kind of the flagship thing. And it works really well. But this is the next thing I'm building, which is the Android app / anyway, I'll get into it. So I'm calling it DOMIS Notedeck. And the tagline is the uncensorable NOSTR browser. And I'll explain what that means. It sounds like, wait, what do you mean browser? Isn't browser something you go to google.com and type stuff and yes, so I'll explain. But this is what it looks like. It's also our Android version, which I will go into. And I'm going to have a demo of this at the end, so you can kind of see how it works. And there's actually not, since there's a lot of new NOSTR people here, you might not realize that there's actually hundreds of NOSTR clients. So sometimes I have to I have to explain why I'm building another one, but there are lots of alternatives. And one of the things I want to motivate in this talk is why am I building a new one, and why I think it's important. So there's lots of different clients, there's lots of different properties of the network. I identified all these ones which I think are really important for censorship resistance, which was one of the main goals I had. and none of them were really satisfying, the things that I needed. So I'm like, okay, let's just build a new one. And you can ask me about these individual things after if you want to take a quick look. But I want to jump right into it. I want to highlight this one, this NOSTR browser idea, which I'll go into it really quick. It's kind of technical, but I know I'm a nerd and I like to go into technical stuff. So sorry, you have to just deal with me for a second. So the problem with building web apps, so you might have had this experience on the web where you go to Gmail or you go to your favorite website and it's just down, it just stops working. And that's for a very specific reason. So the way that web apps are built, you have a web app, it typically talks to some server which has all the business logic, all this thing. So for instance on Gmail, maybe it would be it handles the logic for sending the email and all this stuff. And then typically the backend server talks to some database, so it'll hold your personal information like passwords, things like that. But there's a lot of issues with this model. So for instance, if the backend server goes down, your app stops working, which people have experienced this so many times, right? Like on Instagram, if the Instagram goes down, if the servers go down, the Instagram stops working. All apps kind of have this problem. There's another issue where hackers can hack the server, and then they get access to the database, and then they get your password, and then they get your personal information. There was actually recently, there was 10 billion passwords leaked from across all of these. there was a massive data leak, and this is just an example of when we structure our apps this way, we expose so much of our personal information. Another problem is that the web was never really meant for building apps. It was actually meant for hyperlinked text documents. So nowadays we build all these apps on the web, but it was never really meant for that, and we're starting to see a lot of the flaws in that model. So I'm proposing in Notedeck, I'm proposing a new way of building apps they're called NOSTR apps. So I'm building a new type of browser where these apps talk to a database within the browser. So you have some really interesting properties from that. So all the apps work offline together, and private information is never revealed to the public, and there's nothing really to hack. Because anything that gets replicated to the public databases, there's no backend server here to hack. Anyway, so this is again, very nerdy technical stuff, but for people on the live stream who are into that, and people who are here who are into that, so this is my kind of few slides for that. So yeah, I want to, where are we? So what if we built a new app browser based on these ideas? Okay, so this is how Notedeck came about. So Notedeck is a NOSTR browser. It has a few cool features. So one of them is that imagine if you had in Google Chrome, if you had a Bitcoin wallet built into Google Chrome. This is where the idea started. And so not only that, but it manages your NOSTR key, so it's secure. A big issue on NOSTR right now is that it requires a browser extension to do signing of notes. So this kind of gets around a lot of those issues. So here's an example app that I built, which I'm going to demo very soon, which is basically like Grok for Noster, where you can ask it to find stuff on the network and it can find stuff. It's pretty cool. So I'm just going to jump into the demo of kind of some of these ideas. Just open it up if I have it running. So here's Notedeck. So this is one of the main apps. If you ever saw TweetDeck, this is one of the first apps we built. It's just kind of like a TweetDeck for Noster. And you can go to follow people. I have a bunch of columns here. Edward Snowden is on Noster, Ross Ulbricht, Jack Dorsey. So it's kind of cool. I like to follow these people and because they post interesting stuff. Edward Snowden hasn't posted in a year. Come on, Edward. What are you doing? So it's just if you're new to Noster and you want to try it out on your desktop, this is kind of a fun little app. And another one is I have this little guy here. I call him Dave. You see he'll see his little spinning cube here. If you click Dave, you can ask him stuff. That's not true. Not true. Okay, there we go. So he was just confused. Dave gets confused sometimes. So he's showing me some interesting and I noticed I qualified it with not related to Bitcoin, because honestly, people on Nostr like to talk about Bitcoin. There's nothing wrong with that, you know. But it's actually a big issue with Nostr right now is that people join who are not into Bitcoin and they just get like, oh, there's a bunch of like crypto bros. So something we're working on is like building algorithms to make it to find more interesting content. So maybe Dave can help with that. We'll see. Hopefully none of these are related to Bitcoin, and they're not. But you can click it and jump into the thread, view it. And the other big thing with Notedeck is that it's also our Android app, so it's responsive. You'll see here. So this is what it looks. Oop, it's not on the screen. Oh, it is. Okay. So this is what it looks like on your phone. So we're also building it to be a mobile app. And that was the demo. And if we want to jump into questions, but yeah, that was mostly it. That's Notedeck. That's what I'm working on. Yay.
I just want to start off with a few questions, and then we'll pass the mic around if anyone wants to ask Will anything. So as far as Nostr goes, I'm actually very curious about like key management, and you know, like it's a, oh yeah, I warned you that might fall apart.
Okay.
Okay, as long as you kind of grip it with your hand, then it should be good.
I got it.
Yeah, so I know, like, you know, when Nostr started off, you would have your own private key, which allows you to be able to post, and a lot of clients would require you to be able to paste that private key into, you know, different clients to be able to post within that client. So key management, like, what I'm curious about as a Nostr user is, like, that seems kind of risky because for the example that you gave, let's say it's like a politician, they have their key, and that key gets compromised somehow, and now someone else is posting on your behalf. Are there any solutions that you kind of see on the horizon, or does Notedeck provide any better ways of being able to do that?
Yeah, so there are solutions, but I honestly think that if you're going to get the average person to install a browser extension just to use Nostr, I think that's already too much of a barrier. There are apps like Amber on Android that allows you to do remote signing, where Amber controls your key, and all the apps on Android talk to that thing for signing. I'm taking a different approach. I'm trying to build this for like more like regular people. So you still put your NSEC in here, but the idea is that eventually there'll be multiple apps for this, and then you'll only have to put your NSEC in once, and then that's it, right? So yeah, because it's not really satisfying to put your NSEC into every, like, even I don't do that. I don't even use most Nostr apps because I don't want to put my NSEC into it. So we need to make that easier, and this is like one possible approach to doing that, which is just like building a browser. You put your key into the browser once, and then you can hopefully build an ecosystem of apps around that. But there are those other approaches with, like, you know, something in your taskbar or a browser extension. But again, I feel like that's too much of a barrier for most people to do.
Yeah, fair enough. And is Notedeck kind of like, I know that you're saying that this is kind of like a desktop and Android client, but is this ultimately the future of Damus, that it'll eventually replace the iOS client as well?
Yeah, so this is the last client I'm ever going to build because I'm specifically designing it so that it can run micro apps within it. And these micro apps are going to be able to talk to each other within the browser. And that's one of the coolest things that, like, not even the web has really solved this problem. Even on the web, like, most applications are isolated from each other. They don't really talk to each other. But this is a new type of web, an application, and it's an interoperable application web where every app within this space can all talk to each other. And it's like a new way of thinking about the web. So eventually, yes, I will have this as probably an iPad app first because it's, like, kind of works better as an iPad app. You know, I still have the iOS app, which we'll be maintaining, but this will be for everything else. Yeah.
So let's say, just to help me wrap my head around kind of where you envision this going in the long term, if this is a browser that can run micro apps and could shift the way that we use the internet. If I'm a company like Google, or I'm, you know, Apple, or someone that builds web apps on the internet, do you envision kind of like the entire internet operating under this new type of architecture and within a client like this?
I mean, this is one of those, I'm not expecting the entire world to switch over to this. This is more going to be for enthusiasts and tinkerers and hackers for a very long time. I would say probably like 20 years. Like, it's not like it's not going to take the world by storm, but if people, the model is really cool. Like, for instance, you could run a relay within your organization, and all the apps you use, like you could have an internal Twitter, you could have an internal, like eventually there's going to be like calendar apps, there's going to be scheduling apps, there's going to be like apps for GitHub or like doing Git stuff over Nostr, and all of that can now work within your organization without actually connecting out to remote relays. Another cool thing about Notedeck is that there's actually a relay within the client, and this is what the UI talks to. So right now, you might not see it right now, but I think it's probably rendering at like 100 frames per second, but every frame it's querying the local relay to get all the data. So everything you see right now is like fresh data from the, anyway, so the point of that is, oh shoot, sorry.
Oh, we're good.
So the point of this is that we're building this new type of way of building applications where everything works locally. I call it local first application. So everything works locally, and it works, and then the next layer is maybe within your organization. So maybe you could talk to all your coworkers. You can have your own Twitter within your corporation, and then you can reach out even to the wider internet. So you can actually, so it's like a tiered system, which is completely different from the web applications we use today, because like on cool relay right here, it's called the multicast relay. It's not connected right now, I don't know why it's not working. But that relay, if you send a note, it'll actually send it to everyone on the local Wi-Fi. So anyone who's on the same Wi-Fi as you can receive notes. So it really embraces, and this is the multiple relay thing I'm talking about. These are all run by different people. I run this relay, but every time I send a note, it sends it to all these relays at the same time, and that's what gives it its robustness, right? So even if my relay goes down, and actually this happens a lot on Twitter, where Twitter will go down and people will go to Nostr because it's just so reliable. You have all these redundant data stores. So these are all remote relays, but there could be one. This is my WireGuard relay, so that works over a VPN. So I use that for whenever my Bitcoin node gets a transaction, my WireGuard relay will actually send me a notification, and that's completely private. So you have a lot of flexibility in terms of like, and these are really simple to run. Like you could run this on the local network and just have your own local Slack within this local area network. And there's so much flexibility in the way of building apps this way. So I don't know. I think it's really cool. As in, if you're like, I'm a nerd, so I just find it super interesting that this is even possible, right? So.
Yeah. So one of the experiences that I've had when I've been using Nostr, in contrast to what I get on Twitter, like, for better or for worse, and the reason why, social media and all these different apps are so addictive is that they do, kind of select what content to present you based off of what you've engaged in the past, and it's kind of like this feedback loop, right? Yeah. And like one of the things that has been, like I have actually found Nostr extremely not addicting because it doesn't have that, but then everything has a flip side of it, which is that the discoverability of accounts is always such a challenge because it almost requires for someone to repost something or that I already follow, or for someone to be in the comment section of a post that is of a note that was already posted. So as far as and I feel like there is like a fine balance, that there is a line between even for new users around discoverability, and I know that there's a lot of initiatives out there of trying to like create like follower packs and things like that. Mm-hmm. Where do you see that as a problem to the growth of the Nostr network, and kind of what do you see looking towards the future as like finding solutions around some sort of balance?
It's the biggest problem in Nostr right now. Like that's like, I would say like 90% of our meetings at Damas is talking about that exact problem. It's like, I think the biggest one is, again, the fact that, there's so many Bitcoiners, and again, there's nothing wrong with Bitcoiners, but it's hard for people when they first join and they're not into Bitcoin to like find other content. So the follow packs was like one attempt at that where you can find people who have similar interests. And obviously like algorithms as well. Like we're not against algorithms. We're pro algorithm. Like we want to make sure that the user can choose their algorithm. Mm-hmm. We even have some like basic algorithms within Notedeck. They're nothing fancy. They don't really fit on the screen, but we do have some algo feeds, but they're really basic right now. Mm-hmm. But eventually what our plan is that you can literally just program your own algorithm. You'll get maybe Dave can like build an algorithm for you. And the biggest thing is about choice, right? So if you want a completely reverse chronological feed, I honestly think that should be the default because it's so much more chill and less like, reprogramming people. And then it should be up to the individual to like choose which algorithm they want. And one really interesting thing about that is that on Instagram, for instance, only one thing is going to go viral because they kind of have like one algorithm. But in this system, like there could be many different competing apps with many different algorithm implementations, and your thing can go viral in many different ways at different points in the time, at different places in the world. So I think this actually could be even better for people who are like trying to get their content out there. We just need to build out these systems so that we just have lots of different algorithms to try. Yeah.
I'm curious, NOSTR is kind of being touted as this, uncensorable type of social media platform. Have you seen any cases of NOSTR being used, for example, if there's something that happens geopolitically where they kind of like cut out, they turn off Twitter? Like I know like Brazil had something, that this feud recently. Do you see like, trends in your usage and your downloads of the clients that correspond with these types of events? And do you have any examples of like interesting anecdotes that have happened?
Yeah, the biggest one recently was when the Telegram guy, he was caught by like, I guess like France was holding him for a bit. And then, so there was a huge spike then because people were worried that like your data was going to be like decrypted. I don't know. There was some issue around there. So we saw a huge spike. We like to say that NOSTR is kind of like a refugee camp for people getting banned off of other social media platforms. So like you get a lot of the people who are just like disenfranchised from other platforms, and so we have like they all hang out on NOSTR. So yeah, NOSTR is the place to go when you're like, if you get banned from elsewhere, and it's like the last kind of place where you can have free speech online. It truly is. Like even Blue Sky is like the most censored social media network on the internet. Like if you say one wrong thing, you'll get banned. So like and even if the Fediverse, like that was actually one of the main reasons why I joined Nostr, because I was huge on the Fediverse. But I really like talking about Bitcoin. But there's people like who are very far left on the Fediverse who don't like hearing about Bitcoin. So I built up a huge following. But I just talked about Bitcoin too much, and the person who was running the instance banned me from the instance, and I lost my entire social graph. And I realized at that moment, it's like, oh, we actually need to solve this problem. We need to make it sure that you can build your like followers, and you can build your friend in your social network, and just no one can take that away from you. Like we needed a protocol for that. And then Nostr was the first time I'm like, this is so simple, and this is actually gonna work. And it's been running fine. Like I've been on this network for the most part for the past like 3 years, and there's like 10,000, 20,000 active users at any given time, and it works really well. We just need to get the word out and get more people trying it.
Yeah, I almost wish that some dark part of me almost wishes that it was more addictive, that like it would like kind of loop you in and like really kind of somehow know to like what content to present you and like what people to follow in order to try and make it so that it's something that I want to use, something that I want to onboard my friends to, and so on and so on.
Yeah, it's a different type of social network because an algorithm is not going to boost you into someone's feed. Maybe unless it's like primal trending or something. That's probably the most popular algorithm right now. But for the most part, if you want to get value out of this network, you really have to kind of put in work. And I don't think people are used to putting in work on social networks. Like people are used to TikTok, they open it and they just scroll. Like they've trained a generation of people to like not have to do any amount of work to like get value out of a social network. So I think that is kind of what our biggest thing we're dealing with. Like how do we have that same experience of just getting into it and getting content pushed to you, but without having it be without like losing our values of like shoving algorithm slop down your throat, right? So
yeah, this is crazy, and it seems like so much to be able to build. Like how big's the team at Damus?
So we have a lot of people who are just open source contributors. Luckily, we have a few people who are funded by OpenStats and HRF, Human Rights Foundation. So shout out to those guys. But we have one part-time person other than me, but the rest is like grants and open source.
So, sorry, is Notedeck and Damus open source that like you can go on GitHub and like do pull requests and things like that?
All GPL open source. If you want to contribute, you can just start contributing to Freedom Technology. There's no barrier. We have a bunch of issues that are open that are like for if you're new, and we have groups. So we have Signal groups. We can come join and help out. Like we encourage open source developers because we're not VC funded, so we need all the help we can get, and we're happy to get anyone who wants to help. So
that's very cool. Okay, so I'm going to open up the floor for questions. I'll bring the mic around. So hands up if you got any questions for Will.
So I heard you talking about apps. Like, what's your favorite micro app happening on NOSTR right now?
My favorite micro. I mean, Zapstream is pretty cool. I do frequent Zapstream. There's a really cool one. So Jack Dorsey started a little project with a bunch of hardcore Nostr devs called Chorus, and it's like a way of doing kind of smaller group chats on Nostr, and you can like fund it with eCash, and there's a lot of cool ideas out of there. So definitely check out Chorus. I think it's chorus.community or something. So that's a cool one. There's honestly so many. Yeah, I don't know. There's as a dev, there's one that's trying to replace GitHub on Nostr. I think it's Git Workshop, I think it's called. So that one's cool. There's a lot of people doing community stuff. Actually at Damus, we're working on a new spec that tried to replace Reddit eventually, because like on Reddit there's like a lot of censorship. So we wanted to see if we could do like rebuild Reddit on top of Nostr. So that's an exciting project. And I think that's one of the things that might be a misconception about Nostr, that it's just like a Twitter clone or something, but it's not. It's actually a generic framework for building decentralized, interoperable social applications, which is a big mouthful, but it's kind of the most accurate way to think about it.
Yeah, I feel like that's how I was thinking about Damus as like a Twitter alternative, but it's really, like you guys are trying to be almost like a new internet protocol, like where you can build, have communities, build a Slack channel. Like that's huge.
Yeah, so like I always like to give the example of Nostr as kind of like the email protocol, and like Damus is like Gmail. But there's other clients for the email protocol. There's like Outlook. There's so that's one way of looking at it. The most unique thing about Nostr is the fact that the thing that is spec'd at the protocol level is this idea of a database that and a data model, right? So like all applications on this protocol know how to speak the data model and all know how to query the same database structure, which means you can build these applications that can fetch and share data. So for instance, if you retweet something on Twitter, like something on, or if you like something on Twitter, maybe it would show it up as a like on Instagram. So these things are kind of linked together in a very interesting way. And it's so mind-bending because people are not used to thinking about the web that way, that there's like actually you could have interoperability between these different silos and these different platforms, but this is what this protocol enables. So as a dev, like that's why we see so many devs, because devs are really excited about this. There's so many possibilities with that, just that idea. Or even like now that I added Zaps, like imagine if you do a post in your Slack channel, your coworkers can zap you, right? Or if you do a post on Twitter, you can get zapped. You can do a post on Instagram, you get zapped, but it's like all going to your same account.
That's cool.
So there's lots of possibilities. We just need to get more devs to explore these.
Are you seeing like any interesting trends and people are having a lot of success in growing their Nostr accounts and following?
It ebbs and flows. We've definitely seen less people zapping. I don't know if that's just due to the fact that the number of wallets have been getting less reliable. So that's one of our biggest pushes right now, which is why we've been talking with CoinOS a lot as well, CoinOS, just to like see if we can make it easy as possible to just get people into Bitcoin. I think that's kind of a big struggle. If you make it ain't difficult at all to set up a wallet, then people just like don't end up zapping. So that's one of the biggest focuses at Damus, just making it easy to get your first non-KYC sats, and just making it easy to like, we just need to grow that zap economy.
That's cool. That's cool. I don't want to hog it too much. I saw you made a tweet about like packs. I'm trying to figure out how to use this more. Can you explain that? Like you look like
follow packs?
Yeah. What's that all about? Like how do I use that?
Yeah, so there's a cool website, following.space. So Kale put this together. So Kale, the eCash guy. So you can create your own follow pack here. We got some good ones. Brits in it. Get some Brit follow packs. Follow Jesus. All right. Okay. So Nostr Wallet Connect. Yeah. So you can go on here, and if you have a group of friends and you want to like make a follow pack, you can do that. And actually, in the next version of Damus, these will show up inside of our app in the Explore page. And I wish I had a demo of that.
That's huge, because I feel like when I started, it was very hard to like figure out who to follow, like where the people I follow on Twitter were on there. So you can come on here, and if I want to follow all the key Bitcoiners, there's like a pack here, and they'll all be in there essentially.
And this beautifully demonstrates the power of this protocol, because Kale literally just made this website. This website started generating data on the network. So the data, you can change a number on the packet, I guess. And this number was just like, he just picked a random number, but those notes started going into the network, these follow pack notes. So then Damus, our client, can pull down those notes because we have a shared data model, And all of a sudden, we can now consume these follow packs within Damus, even though this random app just started generating them. And this has happened so many different times, and that just shows the power of the interoperability of this protocol. It's incredible. It's never happened in any other protocol that I've ever seen. So
That's rad. Probably my last question is like, so when I started, I noticed I have all these relays that just kind of auto got linked to my account.
yeah.
Super noob question, but like, what's up with that? Like, what's wine.nostr?
Yeah, so these are run by we call them bootstrap relays because they're just a way to kind of get into the network initially. But in the future, there's going to be many different ways that people get onboarded into NOSTR. So some random app could have their own different set of bootstrap relays, and our relays might not overlap. So one of the biggest challenges at the protocol level is making sure that if you get on, no matter where you get onboarded, whatever relays you get onboarded onto, there's got to be a way to bridge those relay groups in some sense. So that's something we are actively working on at the protocol level. It's called the outbox model. And the basic idea is that when you are onboarded, you actually broadcast a note to the network that say, these are the relays that I'm using, so that when you follow someone, you actually pull down their relay list, and then you say, oh, this guy's posting to those relays, so the client knows to get their notes from that relay. So that's just a way of just like slowly building the decentralization of the network. You don't need to do that. You could just talk to one relay if you really want to, but you don't gain the censorship resistant properties and stuff.
What's the best metaphor for like understanding what a relay is? Really, is that like is one relay like Twitter, another one's like Instagram? Kind of, it's like different communities, or like how should I think about it? Yeah, so that's
a really good question. I wouldn't see the relay as like the app, because all the apps share the same relay, right? So you could have like Instagram notes, you could have Twitter notes, you can have follow packs. They all exist on that same relay. It's just the client is pulling down the notes that they want to show in their particular experience. But the reason having them all in the same relay is actually pretty important, because it allows you to, let's say, I could now show follow packs within Damus, or maybe some other client will show tweets within their Instagram client. So it's important that we have like a homogeneity between the data. So the best way to I like to think about the relay is just a place where you put stuff. You put notes.
So I make like a note on Damus,
yeah,
and I'm posting it. I can choose which relays to post it to, essentially.
Yeah, by default in Damus, it'll send it to the ones on your relay list, but you can add relays that you want, and it'll get sent to. So if you have like if you wanted to run a relay within your house, and you can add that to your relay list, and then it'll back up your notes while you post.
Right. So like, I guess coming back to your earlier example, like if you had a workspace relay, you could be like,
yeah,
this is private. This is.
Yeah.
And when I make this post, I want to go here and only here.
Yeah.
But here's like a more public one I want everyone to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
this is called the relay pool model. It's like where you specifically say, I only want to send it to these relays that I choose. There's another model called the outbox model, which says it's kind of like autopilot. It's just like depending on where they are and where. If I want to send a note to Bob, but he's on these other relays, the client is smart enough to pull down his relay list, send it to his relays, instead of just the ones that you've configured. So you have some flexibility as a client developer to choose where you want to send the notes, and there's different strategies depending on the type of application you're building. But I really like that one application model where you just have like an internal network within your company, and you just get all these applications for free that just work within your organization, and none of the notes ever go to the public. And that's really no one is even building businesses around that model. Like that's something that we want to do. We're going to call it like Damus Work eventually, but that could just be like workplace tools for within your organization. Then you just get to leverage of all the work we've done in the public space, right?
Very cool. Who's last question? Who's your favorite follow?
Favorite person to follow? Fiat Jaff is pretty funny. He's just like I just like following the most unhinged people. Like Fiat Jaff is so unhinged, but in a funny way. So there's some really interesting weird people on the network. And then anytime there's an early protocol, like early adopters are always very quirky. And that's probably the best thing about the network right now is you get a lot of weird quirky people with really strong opinions. And we will fight a lot on the network. We'll argue what's a good idea, what's a bad idea. But so it can get really technical, at least among my people I follow. But at the end of the day, the network overall feels very chill. It feels very friendly. People are very friendly on the network. And I have a theory as to why people are friendly. I think it's because since by default you don't have an algorithm that's constantly trying to push fights all the time. Because you find on Twitter the the most like aggressive threads, they tend to get upvoted. So people have
100%.
fighting all the time. But on Nostr, you don't really have that. So you just have like people like saying good morning, like how you doing? Like the people post pictures of their like strawberry bush and stuff. It's like it's just way more chill on Nostr.
I saw someone post about that, how like their hack for growing their Twitter was to post like the opposite consensus idea. Like
Exactly.
instead of like saying I think Bitcoin's going
Just
to go
rage
up,
baiting. It's
do, like,
rage baiting. That's like that's the
Bitcoin's-
main
people who tweet like Bitcoin's going to 20K, they get insane engagement because everyone comes in and be like, you're an idiot.
Yeah, it's like it's at the very powerful. When someone's wrong on the internet, it's a very powerful engagement tactic. It's like you want to tell them that they're wrong,
Right.
and that's like. But the algorithm, it doesn't really know that. It's just picking up on people clicking it and viewing it, and then so that's how. So rage bait is so powerful for algorithms because it's like people like to click it and like want to fight and argue and stuff. So that's one of the biggest. That's the dark side of algorithms that we need to figure out because it's like it's not making people happy. It's making people kind of sad and angry. So it's not good.
Has anyone built like a cool algorithm that you can use today with Damus? And like
Yeah, there's some. I mean, Primal has a lot of good algorithms. Like they have like the top Zapped, right? So Zapp's an interesting algorithm because it's like people sending real value, real money to rank things, and like that is something that's a little bit less easy than just a like, right? So sometimes you'll find more interesting content just from rank top Zap algorithms.
That's cool.
But yeah, I'm sure there's gonna be a lot more. Like we have one. I have the one I really like that we have in Notedeck, which is it shows the last post from every pub key on your follow. So you can just see like if someone hasn't posted in a while, you'll see they posted like 6 weeks ago. I'm like, oh, and then maybe I'll reach out to them because like where'd you go? So I like that one because I can just see the last post from everyone on my contact list.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, cheers. Good questions. Thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot for all this. Saw the follow.space. That's a really crucial piece of infrastructure, I feel. So thank you for that. Yeah, just as other people have stated here, like haven't been able to like, where do we follow? Who do I follow? So
Thanks,
having-
Calais, for that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's sweet. With the relays again, just want to touch back on that again. You mentioned a lot of different like, I guess applications involved there. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong on all this. Bear with me here. Is there ways where you could, from this relay, be able to say, okay, I'm posting from Damus or Damus, yep, and then like push it to have it set up so that I could push to X, to push to Instagram, to push to whatever based on their character needs, and then likewise, could I also pull that in from my feed with that relay?
So this comes down to this general topic called bridges. So we have bridges for the Fediverse and we have bridges for Blue Sky. So right now you can actually consume content from people on the Fediverse or Blue Sky through these bridges. And a lot of the time you can even communicate back and forth, which is actually really cool. The issue with Twitter is that they charge like $10,000 or something per month to get access to their APIs.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's many bridges just because it's like expensive to run a
Got
bridge. Yeah.
Okay.
But you could in theory.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Yeah, like you say with these other applications like Blue Sky and whatnot.
Yeah,
you
and
could do that.
I've seen bridges for like RSS feeds, like if you want to
Right.
like so there's lots of cool things like that. Yeah.
Okay. And then just to the idea of like servers and relays and that sort of thing. The other protocol I guess I'm familiar with, and maybe there's you can kind of share some differences or how this works, was like with Matrix. If there's like similarities, differences, because I know like we recently had some people spin up a Matrix chat that he's running the server, and now we're a part of that chat. So just kind of sparked from when you were talking about like having an internal Slack thing.
Yeah, Matrix is like it's a very complicated protocol, and I think that's one of the biggest downsides. I think a lot of people complain that Matrix is very complicated. I think they have a chain of hashes. That's something that Nostr explicitly tries to avoid. This idea of like a blockchain of notes, and so it's useful in the sense of making sure that you have every note with your ducks in order. But in an unreliable network that's like not strongly connected, it's not very common to have every note. Like you could be missing notes from people just because like connectivity issues, and you don't want to like it to stop loading when when it's missing a link in the chain. So I think like that was one of the biggest differences, and I think also Secure Scuttlebutt also had that model where it was like a chain of hashes. So it's like every protocol where I've seen that has a chain, it always has like these weird syncing issues, and like I don't know. So it's a little bit more complicated. But I know a lot of people seem to use it and like it, so I don't know. When I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's too complicated for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's something I kind of seen as well.
Okay, cool.
And then as far as like public relays, what is there? Just like, is anybody built incentivization mechanisms, or is it mostly just like public goods and hoping that people will donate and support?
Yeah, it's mostly public good. Like we fund our relay through our subscription. We have a subscription model. the COO over here, she's like, make sure you plug the subscription. I always forget to do it. Yeah, so damas.io/purple. Oh yeah, so if you subscribe to Damas Purple, you can try out the follow packs in Damas. You get access to the test flight literally today. So that's that's the main benefit of Purple is like we have automatic translations and the fact that you can get access to early versions, which is pretty cool. And it supports us because we're not VC funded, so we appreciate any subscription we get. I kind of forget the question was, how do you sustain these things? So sustaining it via alternative, side businesses. So if you're building a business on NOSTR, maybe you can sustain it that way. It's I had an idea one time where we could add a feature to the client anytime you did a post or something, or you could just it automatically zapped all the relays you're connected to fund them for every zap you're doing. There's lots of models like that we could be trying. But honestly, running a relay is pretty cheap. It's like a $20 a month VPS. We actually have one of the fastest databases in the world. I'm not even just saying that because NOSTR is so good and so we have the best of everything. But we literally have the fastest database. It's called Stir-Fry. The guy who made it is this database and scientist engineer who's just a genius. And he came up with it's the fastest database in the world. I'm not even joking. Anyways, and that's what's actually the same database model of Stir-Fry is actually built within Notedeck. That's why it's so fast. I just took all of his ideas. I'm like, this is so genius. So just because it's so efficient, it's actually you don't need a lot of CPU cores. It's really just IO bound. So it's really cheap to run a relay now, only because of Stir-Fry. So all of those factors is why there's so many people still just there are paid relays, but they're so cheap to run. It's whatever.
I got a question. Sometimes you see different communities popping up on Nostr. I know that there's a big Japanese community. I even saw it in your feed.
Yeah.
Why do certain communities come onto Nostr? And I guess that is coming from a place of how do we onboard more communities?
Yeah, the Japanese one was so interesting, and they're probably one of the heaviest users of Nostr, and they have something so interesting. They have these relays where it's geo IP locked, so they within their country you can only talk within their relays, and you have to be there because I think with a nation like Japan, they're very much like a monolithic culture. They all they're very and I don't know. It just works. That this protocol works really well for them, and I think that's why they kind of just embraced it. And they're so maybe it's just it's a cultural thing depending on where in the world. Maybe they just embrace it more than others. But it just works for them because they don't have to go to a corporation in America to get their social media. They can just run relays within their country, and I really hope that's happening in China right now. I have this theory that. I haven't proven it, but I think it would be smart to not go over the firewall. You could actually just run relays within the country, and then it wouldn't send off any flags. They could just talk to each other within the country. And I don't think the CCP has actually thought about that model where it's because they're usually just monitoring stuff over the firewall, right? So anyway, there's all these really interesting things that can happen within these countries that have censorship and have these issues. So we're just starting to see that play out right now.
So do you almost see, for example, the CCP, maybe they say, okay, people want to use Nostr, let's spin up some Chinese relays where we can actually moderate the content itself? Do you kind of see that happening, or we seen this happening anywhere else?
It's just so hard to, moderate content on Nostr because for every relay that is moderating, there's going to be 5 that aren't moderating. As long as you're connected to at least one that's not moderating, then you just see the unmoderated feed. That's actually a downside for spam as well because you can't rely on relays to do spam prevention because if it takes one relay for the spam to get through those 5 relays, then you still see it on your client. So it's one example where it's so censorship resistant that spammers love it as well. So we need to do a lot of spam protection on the client, but it's also really hard to censor regular speech as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're only presented with content of the people that you follow, but then I think where the spam attack vector is that the people that you follow, you can post in their comments. And I know that you were trying to work on this gay porn spam that was happening a little while back and so I guess just more broadly, how do you envision moderating spam, trying to detect accounts that are just posting spam and then going from there?
Yeah, I mean, people always, and this is what people always ask me when they first open up Damas. They're like, "Why do you have blurred images?" I'm like, "Well, were you not at the the dick storm of like 2023, where you was like just spamming dicks on your feed. It's like, it's not a good experience. So like by default, we actually blur all the images, but we only blur them if they're not in your, we call it the trust network. So if you get Dumb as Purple today, you could try out this new feature. It's called the trust network, where if it builds a web of trust between all your friends. And if there's someone who like none of your friends follow, it actually puts it into the bottom of the thread now. And there's a section where it's, so that should handle a lot of these spammy things. And we don't like hide it outright, because that would be censorship. But we put it in a different section of the app. It's just like it's very much like Instagram, where you have like verified or like untrusted DMs and stuff. So we have a similar model now for threads.
Is there any like reporting mechanism that could kind of work without going down the route of censorship?
Yeah. So I created the reporting spec on NOSTR. It's kind 1984 or not. Yeah. No, but I had to, because Apple doesn't let you release an app on the App Store without a reporting feature. So all it does is it send a note to the relays, but like, what does that do? It's like it's not like anyone can moderate it, right? But some clients actually use this note. So if your friends are sending out the report note, and you trust your friends, then it'll actually like hide the note. So Amethyst actually does this. So the Android client will actually hide notes. And this has been a very controversial feature within Amethyst, because they're like, why am I being censored? Because like, well, some of these people reported you. I don't like that, because it's like, my friends, I don't want my friends making moderation decisions for my feed, because like what they might not want to see, it might be different from what I might want to see, right? So I've always avoided that within Damas. I don't do that within Damas. It's more about you're always in control in Damas. You control exactly what you see, not other people. Yeah.
Any other questions for Will? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your talk.
All right,
This has been super enlightening for me, and also kind of why Notedeck exists at all. That it's like, I never realized that it was going to be positioned to be like a censorship-resistant client and unable to be posted on App Store. So I really appreciate the chat. Yeah, let's give it up for Will.
Thank you.
So we got some giveaways. Thank you so much for coming, and from our wonderful sponsors. So I'll talk a little bit about it, or maybe I can actually even let Mike talk about CoinCards himself. So CoinCards is one of our sponsors. I've used it before. Allows you to be able to purchase gift cards with sats. So if you want to live in on Bitcoin Standard, and not every single merchant accepts Bitcoin, then CoinCards does give you an option to be able to do that. Did I say that right? Did I pitch it? Okay, sick. Cool. So Mike has given a $50 gift card. So with that gift card, you're able to go onto CoinCards. You're able to purchase a gift card to whatever it might be. Is Amazon, Walmart, Steam, Costco? No. Oh, damn. I love Costco. Okay, so I gave out some tickets, so I'm going to do a little draw here. Cool, and the last 4 digits of the ticket are 2543. Yeah, all right.
I also have $5 gift cards for anybody who wants to give the service a try, so just come see me after. The minimum spend is $10, so you have to put $5 of your own money into it, but you get $5 to try.
50% off sounds pretty good to me. Awesome. Congrats. And we also have, I think that you guys, some people are probably aware, but we have one of Vancouver's first Bitcoin conferences coming here in August. So it's August 16th and 17th, Learning Bitcoin. There's actually going to be a ton of cool stuff happening in the city around Bitcoin during that time. We're actually going to be hosting an unconference here for my first Bitcoin on the 15th, I think, if my memory serves me correctly. Anyways, the Learning Bitcoin team, it's our first Bitcoin conference. It's really positioned towards people that want to be able to learn more, whether you're an individual, a business, for your family, and be able to, get more into it. And there's a lot of great speakers that are coming. So they've donated 2 tickets to the Learning Bitcoin conference in August. And so I'm going to draw for those now. So we got last 4 digits, 2551. Hey, okay. Come see me after, and I'll grab your email off you and we'll get you a ticket. And the second one is going to the last 4 digits, 2465. 2465? Anyone? Oh, ayo. No collusion there at all, I swear. Cool, so that's it. Yeah, thank you again to our sponsors. Thank you so much for coming out. We'll hang out for a bit. We'll probably close up shop at around like 8:39. Yeah, so thanks again. Bye-bye.